Welcome to the ultimate New York City walking tour. My name is Cody Jensen. This is my wife, Sarah. We have got up very early this morning. It is before sunrise, and we're about to get on the subway and head over to Dumbo, Brooklyn to walk the Brooklyn Bridge at sunrise. This is the best time to walk the Brooklyn Bridge. There's hardly anybody on the bridge, and the light hitting the Manhattan skyline is beautiful, and then you can turn around and see the light behind the bridge, and that is definitely the best way to experience the Brooklyn Bridge.
So let's go watch a sunrise.
And we'll see you on the other side of the bridge. Once you walk off of the Brooklyn Bridge, you're immediately in City Hall Park. And so this is the next stop. You can see a few different really beautiful municipal buildings, the courthouse and City Hall. So New York City Hall is one of the oldest continuously used city halls in the nation, and it houses the offices of the mayor, city council, and the executive and legislative branches of the New York City government.
I just really love this area. I think it's all the cream buildings. I don't know. It's just really cute.
On the other side of City Hall Park is the Woolworth Building, and the Woolworth Building was built in 1912 and is considered one of the first skyscrapers in the world. It was actually the tallest skyscraper in the entire world for 17 years. So just one block south of the Woolworth Building is St. Paul's Chapel, and this is known as the Little Chapel That Stood because it was built in 1766, and it is the longest surviving church in Manhattan, and it's actually the oldest continually used building in Manhattan as well.
I didn't know it was called the Little Chapel That Stood. That's freaking cute.
It's called that because it survived the Great Fire and the Revolutionary War. And the back of the church actually faces the original Twin Towers, and it actually survived 9/11 without even a broken window.
The Little Chapel That Stood.
And directly across the street from St. Paul's Chapel is Fulton Center. And Fulton Center is worth just coming inside to look up and see the ceiling. So after Fulton Center, the next stop is South Street Seaport, but as you walk east on Fulton, you can stop in the middle of the road and there's a beautiful photo opportunity of One World Trade. So if you keep walking east on Fulton, you'll actually run right into South Street Seaport, which is just an area that we love.
It's so cute.
It's a cute old New York area, and everything feels so original and
European a little bit.
Yes. But the very first thing you'll run into is the Titanic Memorial Lighthouse. So while you're at South Street Seaport, you should just take a stroll down Front Street.
It's so cute. Every time we come here, I'm like, I'm gonna move here.
street towards the river to Pier 16 and Pier 15. You get a great view of Brooklyn and also a really awesome park on Pier 16. Park at Pier 15 is just a really beautiful scenic park.
Yeah, great view of Brooklyn and the bridge.
Plus old beautiful ships that are just always great to look at and take photos of.
True.
And our next stop is Stone Street, which is probably the cutest street in all of Manhattan.
I love Stone Street.
And on your way to Stone Street, you can either walk just right along the river if you just want a waterfront view, or you can kind of zigzag your way through downtown with great buildings and other cute streets. I just love downtown.
It's so good.
The tall buildings downtown, the way the light hits everything, and then the old, like,
winding streets.
Yes. You don't even need a tour guide for downtown, just walk.
Yep, pretty much.
So this is Stone Street. It is a just super cute street. Also a great place to come get a drink or some food, but you do have completely different experience of Stone Street whether you come here in the summer or come here during the fall, winter.
Yeah.
Because in the summer they actually put tents all the way up and down the street, and all of these restaurants have outdoor seating. Huge party, but in the other seasons when all the tents aren't here, it's just a really cute street and a great place to take photos. And right next to Stone Street is some amazing New York history. The first of which is this big window into the ground that is Governor Lovelace's Tavern.
Which was built in 1670, which is incredible. And then I guess it was like subdivided and whatever through the years, and they discovered it in 1870 something when they were building on top of it.
So it rained yesterday and the glass is very dirty, so it's really hard to see, but it is a really cool remnant of old New York.
Yeah.
In addition to Governor Lovelace's Tavern, there's also two other portals to old New York, is what they call all three of these.
Yeah.
One is an 18th century cistern, basically just an old well that they used in the first third of the 18th century, and then it was later filled in and then people threw objects in there.
And there's another one that is a Dutch tavern that was actually used as City Hall until it was deemed unsafe in 1697, so they tore it down.
And that one I don't know if you can ever see inside of. I've never been able to look down and see anything. All I can see is a reflection of all the buildings.
Yeah.
And then another really cool remnant of old New York is right here on the corner, and it's Francis Tavern.
You in it.
So what's really cool about Francis Tavern is that it was actually used by George Washington to host meetings for the Radical Sons of Liberty, and later Washington had his farewell address at the tavern. And also there was a time whenever it housed the departments of Foreign Affairs, Treasury, and War. So after Stone Street and all of the New York history, the next stop on the tour is Battery Park.
Which is the most expensive zip code in America, right?
It's the most expensive zip code for renters in America.
Oh.
It's the most expensive zip code to rent, Battery Park City, which is right next to Battery Park.
Yeah, and it's very pretty.
So first thing we're going to do is explore Battery Park, starting with this really awesome World War II memorial.
This road, it takes me home where skies are blue.
So this memorial has the names of almost 11,000 people who lost their lives at sea during World War II.
No matter when
And then you can just walk along the river and you actually get a pretty decent view of the Statue of Liberty without paying the $19 it takes to take a ferry over there.
Yep.
As you walk the edge of Battery Park, you end up at Castle Clinton. And what's cool about Castle Clinton was this originally was an island with the fort out here that protected the island of Manhattan from, you know,
Ships and stuff.
intruders. But since then, they have filled the land out to where the castle's no longer on an island, and you can just
See it.
see it. You can actually come buy your tickets to Statue of Liberty here. Battery Park also has a few other statues and memorials, art pieces, a really cool glass carousel. So after that, you can walk right across the street to Bowling Green Park, which is where the Wall Street Charging Bull is. So as you walk to the Charging Bull, you actually walk right by the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian, which if you have time, I would highly recommend just going in there real fast and taking a look at the ceiling. It's beautiful. So this is the New York Charging Bull. I think it's famous just because it's famous.
Yeah. I don't really know. I don't understand the appeal, but whatever.
But there's always a line of people here that just line up and somebody walks up, takes their photo, and then next. But recently there was an art piece that was added to it called the Defiant Girl, who's standing in defiance against the Charging Bull.
Against the man.
And they ended up keeping it as a permanent piece of this exhibit.
As they should.
So we walked past the bull, now we're walking up Broadway towards Wall Street and the New York Stock Exchange. So this is the New York Stock Exchange and Wall Street, which honestly is only exciting because it's famous,
Yeah.
you know, Wall Street. But what is exciting to me is right next to the Stock Exchange is the Federal Hall, which is actually the site of America's first inaugural address. It's where George Washington was sworn in as president.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So after Wall Street, we're gonna walk to the Oculus, but on the way you can actually stop by Trinity Church because there is a graveyard next to it that has the grave of Alexander Hamilton. So Alexander Hamilton was one of the framers of the Constitution. He is also on the $10 bill, and he was the first Secretary of Treasury. So on his tomb and on a memorial over here, people throw pennies.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna wind our way through Financial District to the Oculus. So the Oculus is just one of those feats of architecture that is just needs to be seen.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful building that cost New York City $4 billion.
Basically, they needed to put PATH trains to New Jersey and a subway station here, and then they thought, oh, we'll just make it a touristy thing too. So it's like really expensive stores and just a beautiful building.
So we have brought many people here and nobody has been disappointed with just the awe of architecture that it is. Plus, if you need to use the restroom or get a snack, you can do that here too.
And it's all nice.
Not only is the Oculus just worth seeing on its own, you actually don't have to go out of your way to see it because it's actually right in front of the 9/11 Memorial, which is our next stop. So we're not actually going to talk about the 9/11 Memorial a whole lot. It's just something that if you're in New York City, you have to see at least once.
Yeah, it's very moving and overwhelming.
One thing that is easy to miss at the World Trade Center Memorial is directly across the street from the South Tower is Liberty Park. And there is an art piece here that was originally in the plaza of the World Trade Center, and whenever the buildings collapsed, it fell on this art piece, and it was recovered from the rubble and then put in this park as a memorial to 9/11.
Yeah, which is amazing. Like, it survived pretty well. I'm shocked, really.
And now on to see One World Trade, which is the tallest building in America.
Yeah.
But its height is actually more admired from a distance because the surrounding buildings kind of make an illusion that it's not that tall.
Yeah, until you get out a little bit and see how tall it actually is.
Yeah. But there's one thing that you can't do from a distance, and that is walking up to the side of it and just looking straight up.
Yeah.
That view is breathtaking every time, and I've done it at least 10 times. What's amazing about this view is that the way they built the towers, if you walk up to the edge and look straight up, it looks like it never ends and just reaches up into the heavens.
It's wild.
And after you see One World Trade, if you need to use the restroom, Brookfield Place is a great public restroom you can use. And now we are going to do the next leg of our journey and head uptown. If you want to see the exact route we took in this tour, there's a Google map in the description. Right now we're in front of the World Trade Center, and that is where part 2 ended. And so now we're gonna move on to the next part, which is essentially gonna be walking neighborhoods. So we've hit a bunch of specific spots in downtown. Now we're just gonna go get the vibe of some neighborhoods, starting with Tribeca. And for this part, we're going to have a special guest join us. Hi! Jonah is an amazing photographer and just one of our friends, so we decided if we're gonna be walking around New York City, might as well invite some friends to join us. So let's go over to Church Street and we'll head uptown. So from World Trade Center, we walked over to Church Street and we're walking north through Tribeca. You could actually walk on West Broadway or Broadway. Church Street is right in the middle. But we decided to walk down Church Street to get a good view of the Jenga building, which is kind of the new symbol of Tribeca. So Tribeca stands for Triangle Below Canal Street, and a lot of the New York neighborhoods are like that, where there's some sort of abbreviation. Like we started part 1 in Dumbo, which actually stands for Down Under Manhattan Bridge Overpass. And then right after this, we're going over to SoHo, which is south of Houston, and then we'll walk through NoHo, which is north of Houston. Then there's also Nolita, which is north of Little Italy. There's all kinds of different acronymed neighborhoods in New York City, but right now we're in basically the godfather of acronymed neighborhoods, Tribeca.
Also the cutest neighborhood.
So as you're walking down Church Street, and right before you get to the Jenga building, you're gonna run into the AT&T Long Lines building, which looks like a huge Tower of Doom. You'll notice that there is no windows in the entire building, and it looks like this huge ominous thing.
Yeah.
This building was originally built for AT&T to hold all of their telecommunications long distance equipment, and it actually still does that. But that equipment was deemed so important and crucial to our infrastructure that this building was built to survive a nuclear fallout and be able to survive off-grid for a full 2 weeks. But because of that, it has now also become a hub for the NSA's spying department, and it has come out that the NSA's Titan Point was actually housed in this building. So across the street from the AT&T Long Lines building is 56 Leonard, which is affectionately known as the Jenga building.
So all the buildings in Tribeca are just so, you know, so good. Like, look, how cute.
So if you keep walking down Church Street, you'll actually run right into the Roxy Hotel, which Roxy Hotel is just a really cute building that has a cinema inside, and it's just a famous, quintessential Tribeca hotel.
And they have gelato in the summer, and it's so cute.
So we have walked to Canal Street, which means we are walking out of Tribeca, because Tribeca stands for Triangle Below Canal Street. Jonah, what'd you think of Tribeca?
Beautiful. Lovely.
Now we're crossing Canal, which is going to take us into SoHo, which is south of Houston. So as soon as we crossed over to SoHo, the sidewalks got narrower, the streets got cobblier, and the storefronts started to get more expensive. So
Yes.
now we're on Green Street in SoHo, and we're gonna start seeing Acne Studios.
Louis Vuitton and Chanel and all of those.
And also just more beautiful buildings. So whenever you walk through SoHo, you can actually choose two completely different experiences. We're walking down Green Street, which is the more cobblestone, tighter, compact, higher end stores, or you can go just a few blocks over and walk down Broadway, and that's gonna be wide streets and packed with people.
And lots of cars.
Lots of cars, and it's gonna be like all of your H&M's, Forever 21's, Gap, all that type of stuff. We prefer the more quaint view, so that's why we're walking down Green Street. You can also do Wooster or West Broadway. But that's the beauty of New York. You can have completely different experiences just a couple blocks away from each other.
So true.
So now we're walking across Houston, so that means we're exiting SoHo, and I guess technically maybe entering NoHo or Greenwich Village or West Village, depending on which direction we're going. There is tons of stuff in SoHo and Tribeca that we did not see, but if you're gonna hit all the highlights in one day, we can't spend a ton of time exploring all of the areas. So now we're walking towards Washington Square Park, and we're gonna be hitting a little bit of Greenwich Village on the way. So after Houston, we made our way to LaGuardia Place and then zigzagged our way around Bleecker and then McDougal Street, basically just getting a taste of Greenwich Village before we hit Washington Square Park. And right now, we're in front of Comedy Cellar, and Comedy Cellar is basically New York's most famous comedy club, where if you can name a comedian, they've probably performed at Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
We made our way to Washington Square Park, and Washington Square Park is basically the second most famous park in New York City aside from Central Park, just because of how many times it's been in movies and with this association with NYU, the Arch and all that. But we entered the park on the southwest corner from McDougal Street, and before we walk over to the Arch, we're gonna walk over to the northwest corner and see Manhattan's oldest tree. So this tree may not look like much, but it has a lot of history. The historical records suggest that it's possibly up to 300 years old, making it one of Manhattan's oldest trees. It's known as the Hangman's Elm because, according to legend, traitors were hung from its branches during the American Revolution. But other historical records suggest that it wasn't actually from this tree. It was actually more so where the Arch is now. So the main focal point of Washington Square Park is the Washington Square Park Arch. It was actually built in 1892 to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of President George Washington's inauguration, and it was modeled after the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. So if you haven't been to Paris and you want to get a little taste, you just come to Washington Square Park and see like a scale model of it. So from Washington Square Park, we're gonna make our way to Union Square Park. This is now the Square Park portion of the tour. But as we're on our way to Union Square Park, we're gonna walk north on 5th Ave, and the next block up is Washington Mews. And Washington Mews is just a super cute, like European feeling street that you can just take some photos. So we've been walking down University Place towards Union Square Park, but if you are a book lover, you'll want to take a 1-block detour on 12th Street and you'll hit the Strand. They claim to be the world's largest bookstore, at least New York's largest bookstore.
Independent bookstore. It is definitely New York's, and it is definitely famous, and it is definitely worth checking out.
As you make your way to Union Square Park, you may see this clock art piece thing with all these numbers and wonder what they are. It is actually a 24-hour clock that can be read from both directions. So if you read it from left to right, that is the time. And then reading it from the other side, it tells you how many hours until midnight, not how many hours from midnight it is.
Kind of cool. Kind of pointless. Art.
So from Union Square Park, we're gonna walk down Broadway to Madison Square Park. We had to drop off Jonah back there, so we are on our own for the rest of the video. So this is Madison Square Park. Most notably at Madison Square Park is the world's first Shake Shack. It all started right here. If you don't know what Shake Shack is, it's basically New York's In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah.
But why we're actually here at Madison Square Park is because it is surrounded by beautiful buildings, but most notably, this is the home of Flatiron.
My favorite building.
So this is the Flatiron Building, which has been called one of the world's most iconic skyscrapers and a quintessential symbol of New York City. It was completed in 1902, and whenever it was built in 1902, it was only 20 stories tall, but it was still the tallest skyscraper in New York. So part 3 was all neighborhoods and parks, and now we're moving on to landmarks. And the first landmark is the Empire State Building on 34th Street and 5th. The Empire State Building is obviously like the most iconic building in New York City, the Empire State of Mind.
Yeah.
Some fun facts about the Empire State Building is it was built so fast. The planning and construction from start to finish was 20 months.
Wow. That is record time.
People can't even build custom homes in that time. The entire Empire State Building, 20 months. Also a sign of the times is it was completed in 1931, and the original plan for the spire on top was for blimps, airships, to be able to dock there and people unload and go through customs and be out on the streets of New York within 12 minutes. And from Empire State Building, we're going to keep walking north on 5th Avenue towards Bryant Park and the New York Central Library. New York Central Library is just a beautiful building, and Bryant Park is also a great place to stop, play some games, or take a break. The library itself, at the time of its construction, was actually the largest marble building in the United States. And also, the library was built on the battleground that George Washington fought against the British in the Revolutionary War. The library is also just a great place to see on our way to the Chrysler Building, which is where we're going now. But instead of taking the regular route, if you actually turn on 41st Street to the east, you're on Library Way. And so on your way to see the Chrysler Building, you actually look down and there is quotes from a bunch of different famous authors for the next 2 avenues. So at the corner of Lexington and 42nd, you'll run into the Chrysler Building. And the Chrysler Building was actually built in 1930. And at the time of its construction, it was the tallest building until it was surpassed by the Empire State Building 11 months later. It was, though, the first man-made structure to surpass 1,000 feet. And it's still the tallest brick building in the world. And after you see the Chrysler Building, if you just walk 1 block back to the west, you're gonna run into Grand Central Terminal. Once you get into Grand Central, other than just looking up and basking in the glory that is Grand Central,
Yeah.
2 fun things that you should definitely check out is 1, looking up at the ceiling at the Crab and seeing the dark spot that is on the ceiling that was left unclean to show you how dirty the ceiling got whenever they allowed smoking in here.
Yeah, it's gross.
After that, head downstairs to the main concourse and we'll check out the Whispering Gallery. So this is the Whispering Gallery. It's an unintended feature of Grand Central, just the way they built this hallway, concourse, whatever, right in front of the Oyster Bar. If you stand in one of the corners and have a friend stand in the other, you can talk to each other, just like you're standing next to each other.
That's so fun.
as you leave Grand Central, I would suggest walking through the MetLife building so we can take a scenic route to Rockefeller Center. So whenever you come out of the MetLife building, you end up on Park Avenue. And we came this way just as a detour because Park Avenue has some of my favorite buildings on it. You can just look around and see all of these amazing skyscrapers. You also get a good view of the Park Avenue apartment building that isn't that fun to look at, but it is the tallest building in New York if you don't count the spire of One World Trade. Once you get to 50th Street, we're going to turn back to the west and head towards St. Patrick's Cathedral. So once you hit 5th Avenue, you run right into St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is the largest Gothic cathedral in the United States.
Yeah. Also, F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald were married here, so.
And there's also 150 weddings a year held here. It's the spot of spots. And after St. Patrick's, if you walk one block back to the south, you're going to run into Rockefeller Center, which right now it is actually Christmas time. So it's Christmas Rockefeller Center, which is the best Rockefeller Center. If you do come to Rockefeller Center during Christmas time, it is a madhouse. But Rockefeller Center is one of the most important landmarks of New York City, built by John D. Rockefeller himself. I'm sure he didn't personally build it, but he financed it. But it is now the home of NBC Studios, Saturday Night Live. So many TV shows and movies have been filmed here, and it is home to the New York Christmas tree. If you head inside Rockefeller Center, it's actually open to the public on the lower level. There's a concourse down here with restaurants and shops, and you can also use the restroom for free. And if you have the time, you should definitely check out Top of the Rock. It's the observatory deck in the Rockefeller Center. Sweeping panoramic views of New York City, the best view you can get. The Empire State Building has an observatory as well, but Rockefeller Center is the one that you want to do.
Because it has Empire State Building in the view.
Yes. If you walk around the corner of Rockefeller Center, you run right into the Radio City Music Hall, which the neon facade outside has become a New York iconic staple, photographed as much as like the Empire State Building. But also it has hosted things like the Grammys and the Tonys, so all of the celebrity culture around it makes it such a hub for tourism. It is just one of those New York things that you just want to see.
It's worth seeing, even though it is so touristy, you know?
But Radio City Music Hall actually concludes the landmark portion and part 4 of the Ultimate New York City Walking Tour. If you want to see the exact route we took in this tour, you can get a Google Map link in the description. Welcome to part 5 of the Ultimate New York City Walking Tour. This is the last part. We are in the home stretch, the finale, and we're starting this one in front of Rockefeller Center. It's where we ended part 4, and right behind us is Saks Fifth Avenue on 5th Avenue, the actual Saks on 5th.
Actual.
So that's how we're going to start this tour. Is we're actually going to be heading north on 5th Avenue and just seeing all of the 5th Avenue shops and window displays on our way to the Plaza Hotel. first landmark on this tour is the Plaza Hotel, and the Plaza Hotel is just a beautiful hotel with a concourse underneath it for dining and shopping, but it is mostly famous because it has been featured in over 30 movies, in like a dozen different books.
I just think it's a beautiful hotel that I'm obsessed with because of Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect thing to see at Christmas time for some reason, even though it's just a hotel.
But the next stop is going to be going in Central Park, so if you need to use the restroom, going down in the Plaza Hotel is a great place to do that as we head over to Central Park. So we entered the park on the southeast corner, and as you kind of take the path, you'll end up at Gapstow Bridge. And Gapstow Bridge is one of the most iconic bridges of Central Park. Built in 1896, it just offers beautiful scenic views of the park. Great place for photos and apparently duck watching.
Yeah.
Almost right next to Gapstow Bridge is the famous Central Park Woolman Ice Rink. Currently it is being zambonied.
Much better deal than Rockefeller Ice Rink, just FYI.
Yes. And then directly adjacent to Woolman Ice Rink is basically one of the best photo opportunities in Central Park. You just take the stone staircase up and then you're on top of this huge rock. Then you have a New York skyline behind you. Highly recommend.
Highly.
That is if you can get a shot in without somebody else in the background. But now we're just going to take a stroll through Central Park, just enjoying the views and the sounds, sights, and smells, and make our way to the fountain. This is the Central Park Mall. It is just a straight path over to the fountain. It is full of street vendors and buskers. You got musicians and street performers all day long.
It's exciting.
So we made it to Bethesda Fountain. This is one of the features of Central Park that was planned from the very beginning. It was actually completed in 1873, and it was designed by the first woman to receive a commission for a major work of art in New York City. And the fountain with the angel at the top and the name of Bethesda is based on a story out of the Gospel of John of the healing of the paralytic at the fountain of Bethesda. The fountain is also another one of those New York pieces that has been featured in many movies.
Many movies.
But then there's a path leaving Bethesda Fountain that is going to take you right by the boathouse. That is another New York staple, and we'll make our way to the most romantic spot in Central Park, Bow Bridge. So this is Bow Bridge. It has been known as being like a romantic spot in New York City. I have never seen a wedding on Bow Bridge before until just now.
It was like they knew.
It's known for its beauty because it's surrounded by beautiful Central Park and it's right on the lake, but it is also made out of cast iron, which gives it this unique character and texture. But what is funny about that is it was built out of cast iron, not because they wanted to make it a beautiful bridge, but because it was actually cheaper than building it out of stone like all the other bridges in Central Park. But because of that, it ended up being an icon. But now we're we're just going to backtrack our way over the bridge and head down south and check out the west side of Central Park. There is a lot more Central Park, but you could spend an entire day exploring Central Park, so we're just hitting highlights before we head back out. Park at 69th Street, and we're gonna walk west over to Columbia just to get a quick taste of the Upper West Side as we head back down south. As you walk down Columbia, you'll end up running into Lincoln Center. To me, I think Lincoln Center is worth just coming to view the architecture and just the beautiful surroundings and the fountain. But for lovers of the arts, you will very much love this because it is a 16-acre complex that has the Metropolitan Opera, the New York City Ballet, the Philharmonic, Juilliard School of Music is here, and like 3 or 4 other arts and music related things. But it is all just beautiful architecture that I could look at for days. But also, fun fact is that the entire complex was actually built on top of an old rundown neighborhood that was used to film West Side Story. And not surprisingly, whenever they decided to tear down all of those homes and buildings and displace everybody, it was a bit of a controversy putting Lincoln Center in. From Lincoln Center, we're gonna walk over to Broadway and keep walking south towards Columbus Circle. We made our way to Columbus Circle. We are standing in the middle right now. Columbus Circle is just an awesome area. There is during the Christmas season, there's a Christmas market here all year round. Below us right now, there is a little mall called the Turnstile. It is surrounded by just beautiful modern architecture. But a very interesting tidbit and fact about Columbus Circle. Right in the middle, there is a large pole with Christopher Columbus standing at the top. And this was put up to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus discovering America. But the most interesting thing about it is this point is actually used as the geographical center of New York City. And it's technically not the center, but at some point somebody decided that this was going to be the center. All calculations of where New York City is will be done from this statue. But now we're going to continue down Broadway and make our way to Times Square. We have made our way to Times Square right as it has begun to rain. We saved Times Square for last, not because we saved the best for last, but because Times Square must be seen at night. We were very close to Times Square earlier in the tour, but we decided to keep walking to enjoy all the other things with the sun and then make our way down here once the sun was down, because Times Square, to me, is disappointing at all times, but it is especially disappointing during the day. When you come here at night, if you are one of those people that just loves advertisements, then you will adore Times Square because the advertisements are aplenty. But it is one of those places that if you've never seen it before, it is worth seeing at least once at night because it has this like shock factor, this like feeling of otherworldly that you just don't get in any other place in America or maybe even in the world. Seeing it for the first time, just standing here, just like looking around, it is worth seeing.
Yeah.
But after you've seen it the once, I feel like It's probably enough. It's kind of like
Because
Vegas.
it's just a lot of advertisements.
Yeah. But some fun facts are, prior to 1907, Times Square was actually called Longacre Square until the New York Times built their headquarter building here and then had the whole place renamed as Times Square.
Man, can you imagine having that sort of influence?
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us on this Ultimate New York City walking tour. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.